Wherever you're tuning in, however you're tuning in, if it's on the radio dials of 105.1 FM, 790 AM, online at sportstalk1051.com, Google and Alexa home devices, the video stream up and rolling on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Hopefully you're all off to a fantastic start. If you're already up and at it, if you're just getting going, well, let's grab some coffee and let's get going here this morning. What do we got on the good old game plan? Last night, if you were staying in and you were watching a little bit of little baseball, maybe a little hoops, not bad. Was an entertaining game. Japan defeating the United States in the World Baseball Classic Championship 3-2. But the matchup that a lot of people wanted to see happened at the biggest moment in the game. Shohei Ohtani going up against his teammate Mike Trout. Bottom ninth, 2 out, full count. And Ohtani gets him swinging on a slider. So Japan getting their third championship out of the 5 total World Baseball Classics out of there. So anybody watch it? Anybody who's kind of been following along with the World Baseball Classic throughout its whole run this year? Your thoughts? Maybe this was the first time you were kind of watching it. Are you into it? Do you like this? You like the format? Do you like to see this going on? What kind of improvements would you like to see? What do you want to see different? All that fun stuff. But I thought the World Baseball Classic this year was entertaining. I thought it was awesome. Now, it'll be curious to see some of if there is going to be any pushback from Major League ball clubs. You know, you had a couple of injuries. Obviously, Edwin Diaz for the Mets, their closer, done for the year. You know, Altuve got hurt. So I'm sure there's going to be teams that are going to be nervous, and they're always going to be nervous and you know, maybe a little skeptical having their players play in a tournament like this. But, you know, I think for me, if I had to put one thing out there, maybe I'd like to see some more of the star pitchers for the U.S. side participate in the World Baseball Classic. But again, it's do players and mostly teams, you know, they might get nervous about maybe getting a little dinged up, maybe getting a little bit worn out or hurt or anything like that. But I don't know. What do you think? Your overall thoughts on it? But I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I don't know about the rest of you, but I really enjoyed it. So, okay. What else do we got on the game plan here this morning? Badger hoops picking up the W. So they are now in the Final Four of the World. Or I was going to say World Baseball Classic. Final Four of the NIT. They defeated the Oregon Ducks last night, 61 to 58. It's kind of been a different player every game so far for the Badgers. First one, it was Stephen Krall, right? Then you had Chucky Hepburn, and then last night it was Max Klesman leading the charge in the scoring department for the Badgers. So they're going to be going up against North Texas on the 28th, March 28th. And then, obviously, if they win, they're in the championship game. So Badger basketball team still rolling, still getting through. Kind of following along, paying attention? Huh? Nah? No? Don't care? NIT? We'll talk about it anyways. Got a little college hoops talk here. And, you know, March Madness will tip back off tomorrow. I'll get going again tomorrow with the Sweet 16, and then after this weekend, you know, we'll know who's going to be in the Final Four. We're going to know who's going to be in the Final Four. So, we got some college hoops talk. Bucks are back in action tonight as well. The Bucks taking on the San Antonio Spurs tonight at 7:00. With just 11 games left to go, they're holding on to that first spot in the Eastern Conference by 2 games. Now it's 2 games above the Boston Celtics. Philadelphia sitting just 3 games back. So you're looking at the last of these 11 games at home against San Antonio tonight. starting off a little bit of a road trip on Friday night, Utah. They're back-to-back Utah and Denver. Denver game should be pretty good if all the major players play in that one. Then they make their way back to the Midwest. Road game against Detroit, Indiana, and then next week sets off that Boston and Philly series all in Milwaukee. Maybe at that point in time, just maybe. They still got 4 games after that Philadelphia game, but maybe inching a little bit closer to clinching that 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. When you're looking at the standings in the NBA so far, only 3 teams have clinched in the East, and those are your top 3 right now. That's Milwaukee, Boston, and Philly. Nobody else has clinched a spot. The Western Conference is even more up for grabs. Denver, the only one who has clinched a spot. They're the only team in the entire NBA that has clinched their division right now at this point. They're holding on to that 1 spot. Memphis, there's 3.5 back. Sacramento sitting there in that Memphis at the 2 spot. Sacramento's at the 3 spot there. So when you combine both the Eastern and Western Conference, just 4 total teams, and 3 out of the 4 coming out of the East have clinched playoff spots so far this year. So we'll throw a little NBA talk in there. We'll throw some Brewers chat in as well, going back to a little baseball here. Matt Arnold, the Brewers general manager, he did a little kind of like a Q&A with some season ticket holders yesterday, answered some of the questions that ticket holders had out there. So we'll go through a couple of the things that maybe have kind of sparked your interest here. He talked a little bit about who's going to be the setup man now that Devin Williams is the closer. Will the disappearance of the infield shift help Christian Yelich? We'll get his thoughts on that, hear what he has to say about that. Yesterday we touched on who do you think are the 5 Brewers players that you are keeping your eyes on for this year, for this season? And you can kind of go about it a little bit different ways if you want, like 5 that I think are going to be studs, or 5 that I think really need to, be pivotal players, step up their game, a little bit of a mixture, all that fun stuff. So I got mine up on the podcast forum over there if you want to take a gander at it later on. But we'll throw some Brewers talk in here, and if we got some time, maybe we'll throw some more football chatter in here too, because we're at that point in time now. We're a little over a month away yet from the draft. What is that? April 27th is the first round. But now you're at this point, not only with the pro days and all that stuff going on, but you got picks now, or I should say, draft prospects that are making their visits, going to teams and making some visits. So if you're one of those that likes to kind of see, who are the Packers bringing in and such, well, one guy that I've been intrigued with for a while now, and I think his stock has really risen in the draft, especially after the combine, is Darnell Washington, the tight end from Georgia. I've talked about him, I know, a few times already, but the other day he posted, because it's all about social media, but he posted on I think it was his Instagram page, that he was in Green Bay. So Green Bay bringing him in for a visit. Now, in the past, be like, okay, that doesn't really mean a whole lot. But with Goody, you can kind of maybe connect some dots in terms of the players they bring in, and do they actually draft them, or do they really target them in the draft? And there's some connections over there. There really is. But this Darnell Washington kid, I mean, he doesn't even look like a kid. He looks like, he's a man, and he's just 6'7", 260, 265. And the guy plays tight end. I mean, just massive. Massive. One of the scouting reports, an area scout for an NFC team, according to his NFL.com draft profile, said he creates so many advantages in the run game because of his size and strength. But I think the same is true in the passing game when they utilize him. And what really got his stock risen in that combine was some of the catches he was making at the combine too. And he's at that position now where he might be a little too early for the Packers' first pick, but he might not be there for the Packers' second round pick. But I don't know, just what this guy brings from a physical standpoint. Whew, I don't know of too many people who could cover a 6'7", 265 tight end. Just seems like that would be a nice little I guess safety net, safety target for Jordan Love potentially. But I don't know. So we're kind of keeping a tracker on all these players, maybe kind of coming in and visiting Green Bay and such. But I still look at it with their free agency, kind of what they've been going about. And I know we talked a little bit about it yesterday. You look at the salary cap. I was trying to play a little devil's advocate yesterday, kind of going back and forth and such. You look at it, it's like, oh, over the cap. They've got the fifth most salary cap space available with Aaron Rodgers' contract on there. All right, let's do something. All right. And then you kind of saw some moves like, well, why did they sign a guy like Dalton Schultz for 1 year, $9 million? Why are they creating more money with these restructures? Why are they only doing 1-year deals? And why are they only doing special teams guys? What's going on here? What is the plan? What is the frustration? Or are you frustrated with what's kind of been going on? I mean, if you're one of those two, if you pay attention to power rankings, I mean, NFL.com, they've really plummeted the Packers in power rankings already in March, if that's kind of your thing. A March power ranking, free agency power ranking. But I don't know. Like, you could go about this different ways. You can look at it where, hey, they got the fifth most salary cap space available. Why aren't they doing something with it? But you kind of have to factor in some other parts to it too. You got a draft class, you got to factor into it. Some other pieces. I mean, they're gonna have to fill it out with some other, probably cheaper veterans, if you will. Because I think currently right now they've got 60 some, is it 60 some under contract at this point, and they're gonna, try to fill that out a little bit more. I would expect some more veteran signings, those 1-year deals, those cheaper deals and such. But I know I mentioned it. I don't think we didn't go through it yesterday. Bill Huber had a piece up talking about the Packers salary cap kind of thing, and he does a really good job of breaking it down for a bunch of different reasons. So we'll kind of hit that up maybe a little bit later on. But one of the reasons why you have a Packers team that has maybe some, I guess if you want to call it salary cap strap situations, tight salary cap numbers. Well, I mean, they've got good players who deserve pay raises. That's Kenny Clark. That's Jair Alexander. That's Aaron Jones. That's Elton Jenkins. Rashawn Gary's probably going to be in there. Good players cost good money. That's one of those reasons there. But we'll go through that a little bit later on here. So let's get things rolling here, though. Coming up on the leadoff, let's kind of do a little bit of a smorgasbord. Oh, plus it is Wednesday, so give me your stock reports. Whose stock reports are rising? Whose stock reports are falling? We'll do a little showdown as we are now into the second round of showdown, and we got a sports vigilante coming up in the 7:00 hour too. So, but let's get things rolling here. We'll kind of do a little bit of everything, touch on a little bit of everything here to open up things on the leadoff. But Badgers making their move. They got another W, moving on to the Final Four in the NIT. Do you care? Do you not care? I mean, they're probably going to put up a banner if they win that whole thing, right? I mean, probably. I would assume so. World Baseball Classic concluding last night. Your thoughts? Did you like it? Entertaining? If you could fix something, what would it be? And then we'll throw a little Brewers chat in here too. What did Matt Arnold have to say to some of the season ticket holders yesterday? Maybe a couple questions. Same of these. Maybe a couple of these questions were the same ones that you would have. So let's hit at it. Take that first break, and then we'll get things rolling on this Wednesday morning with our leadoff. We'll hit up on a few different topics to open up things. A little bit of a breakfast smorgasbord for you this morning. We'll be back after these quick words. Next Thursday, we'll be back over to Hy-Vee for a little opening day viewing party. Brewers Cubs, we're going to be giving away some tickets to Brewers Cubs on July 4th. You got to be in attendance to sign up. Going to be grilling out, doing some burgers, brats, all that good stuff. Baseball season's going to be coming up right around the corner, baby. So hopefully we'll see you there. We'll start everything around noon. Game is the 125, 130, somewhere around there. We know it doesn't always start out on time. So we'll be there Thursday, and then the following day, March 31st, we're going to be over at Westside Bar and Grill from about 12 to 2 because they got Man Cave Light on tap over there now. So they've got a Man Cave Light. Plus, they're going to be doing some. They're partnering up with Mike Star Market, their neighbor, because we got some brats over there, right? So they've got the Man Cave Light and the Man Cave Light brat combo for just $6 on Friday from 12 to 2. So I'll be hanging out over there too. So if you don't have anything planned up on March 30th and March 31st, back to back next week, hopefully we'll see you at Hy-Vee for a little opening day action. Chicago, you better have good weather. And then on Friday the 31st from 12 to 2, we'll be over there at Westside Bar and Grill in Eau Claire. G-Man, World Baseball Classic was awesome. Wisconsin was awesome. G-Man, do you got Twitter or something? I mean, how did you find this out? I forgot to mention it in the opener, but he's exactly right. Blue Gold pitcher threw a no-hitter, a no-no yesterday. So shout out to the first one in program history when with the Blue Golds picking up a 7-0 victory. How about that? Pretty darn cool, huh? No-hitter. Gotta like it. Blue Golds so far, they're down in Florida. Blue Gold baseball along with softball and both the tennis programs too, but baseball off to a 4-4 start so far this year. Look at you, G-Man, the insider. I like it. I like it, man. All right, let's talk a little baseball to open up things here this morning and our little bit of a lead off. Let's go through what Matt Arnold, first-year GM for the Milwaukee Brewers. He chatted a little bit with season ticket holders in a Q&A session with some fans, and a couple of questions maybe were some of the same questions that you would have surrounding the Brewers. He was asked, hey, who's going to be the setup man now that Devin Williams is the closer? Who's going to be that setup man? That was, if we kind of go back to yesterday, that's why I put Matt Bush in my 5 players to watch, because I feel like they kind of want him to take that spot, or he could be the guy that's going to get the first opportunity for that setup spot. But this is what Matt Arnold had to say. So it's a good question, and I don't know that we have a lot of those things in place yet. Opening day is next week. We have a lot of guys with a lot to prove in our bullpen, but we have a lot of interesting arms. We have seen a number of examples in the past who have stepped up. We know that there will be guys who have the opportunity to step up, and it's up to Craig to put those guys in the right order. So, answer without an answer, I guess. They don't know yet. It's up in the air. And I know we kind of mentioned that a little bit the other day, too. It might be, the first couple weeks of the season might be kind of a trial basis sort of thing, like, throw some guys in that situation, see who kind of runs away with it, who kind of takes that job, takes that role, and makes it theirs. Is it going to be Bush? Is it going to be somebody like Cousins? Could it be somebody else out there? Brewers might not know who that person is until they get into the regular season and get into those situations. It was an interesting one too. A lot of people talking about, it'll kind of come up in conversation once in a while. Smaller market team with the Brewers. He was asked what would he tell fans who are worried about the economics of smaller market teams. And his response was, we're never going to complain about the economics. The rules are the rules, and we're going to do everything we can. It's on us. We have to be more creative. We have to be more aggressive. We have to scout better. We have to develop better. We have to have better technology. And we have to integrate those things from end to end to be better. The economics are tilted in this game, but we have been able to put out a competitive team on the field here for a while, and I think it makes it even more fun and more challenging and more exciting when we win it. We've run record payrolls here for several years in a row. That's something that sometimes gets lost in the conversation. This is a team Mark Anasio and his family have supported tremendously well over the last couple of years. We're not cratering this team. We're doing everything we can every day to win baseball games. So I guess I would ask you fans, do you buy that? Do you sell that? Would you agree with that? Or do you like, based off some of the decisions and some of the outcomes and such, not really. Nah, not really. I don't buy that. And then he was also asked to will the disappearance of the infield shift help Christian Yelich? I think that could be a factor, Matt Arnold said. There are so many different standards when you talk about a guy who's potentially coming off being the best player in the world, right? The standards for those kind of guys are so high, and it's almost impossible to sustain that for a career. But he's still been a very good player in a lot of ways. It's in different ways. It's not necessarily through home runs. It's through stolen bases, through doubles, through getting on base and being a table setter at the top of our lineup. He's been a dynamic guy, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do this year. I think a lot of fans still would probably argue, though, that, okay, well, based off his contract and such, is he playing to that level of that contract? Is he playing up to that level? And I think a lot of people, if not the majority or a clear majority, would say, he's not. Ever since signing that deal, he has not played up to the level of that contract. And I think you can make the case, too, that it has been a big hindrance to the offense. When your highest paid offensive player is not putting up good numbers or numbers that are related to that contract, it's going to put a big hindrance on your offense, offensive numbers, offensive output. I mean, there's no question about it. The last few years have been incredibly disappointing for Christian Yelich. With hindsight's 2020, you could say, well, what never should have signed to that deal and all that. At that time, we were all pumped about it. We were pumped about it. It looked like he took less than what he could have gotten maybe on the open market and such. And for whatever reason, it just has not been working out or he hasn't been putting up the numbers like he did his first couple of years. For whatever reasons. Might be a few. Maybe it's something to do with that injury he had. Could be. Maybe it's a few different things. But there's no question to me that he has been a big reason why this offense the last couple of years has been inconsistent, because he's been inconsistent. When you've invested so much money into that one player to be kind of your focal part within this offensive lineup, and it hasn't been working, it's going to have an effect throughout the entire lineup and puts a lot more pressure on, all right, these bargain signings or maybe some of these younger guys coming in to be very good hitters, really good hitters, dynamic offensive players. It just hasn't worked out that way so far. So that's why I put, again, Yelich was on my top 5 yesterday of players I'm going to keep my eye on. What kind of production are we going to get from Christian Yelich this year? Especially with the banning of the shift and such. I know the numbers kind of suggest that maybe a little bit, but not drastic, increases in numbers. But we'll see. Maybe there's a different approach at the plate because of the banning of the shift. I don't know. So those were just some of the, I thought the questions and answers that would intrigue Brewers fans mostly. And you talked about the small market teams, the banning of the shift, and who the heck's going to be the setup guy? I mean, I look at this team right now, and Adam McCulvey said it in his piece the other day on Brewers.com. This bullpen is such a big unknown right now. Outside of Devin Williams, it is such a huge unknown at this point. We know guys who are going to be in there. We just don't know what kind of roles they're going to have. How's this all going to shape up? And what kind of production are we going to get from these guys? I think there's a lot of nerves surrounding this. I think the biggest thing that I want to see from these guys who are going to get opportunities in the bullpen is just be consistent. Take this opportunity and run with it. Take these jobs and run with it. Nail it down. And I just feel like the first couple weeks of this regular season, when it starts off next week, there's going to be a lot of trying to figure out how it's going to shape up or who belongs in the bullpen or who should be bullpen options out there. And maybe the Brewers will kind of scour who's going to be available out there after some teams, get down to their 40-man rosters and such, and maybe they bring in. And that's the thing is, like, I know we talk a lot about opening day rosters, like opening day predictions. But for a team like the Brewers, there is a very, very good chance that after the first game, you're already going to see some shuffling around. After the first series, you're going to see some shuffling around. We know a team like the Brewers are going to be doing that all season. Call-ups, call-downs, that sort of thing. That's why the Brewers really like their flexibility when it comes to these players. That's where it puts a guy like Keston Hiura in a really tough position. I should say it puts the Brewers in a really tough position. He doesn't have any more options left. Voit has outplayed Keston Hiura so far in spring training. He's outplayed him. Both don't have, those like they extended the Voit opt-out deadline. I think it's for Friday now. It was supposed to be last Friday or last week. Now they extended it by a week. Voit has outplayed Keston here, and I know Keston is a Brewers guy. That's who they target. That's who they brought into the franchise. He started off his career on a hot note, but to me, this is also a business thing. You gotta keep the players who are performing the best, and Keston might just actually benefit from tagging on somewhere else. I don't know if they can acquire anything in a trade for him or not, but we'll see how it works out. But if it were me, I'm keeping Voit. I'm keeping Brasso too. I mean, that dude just hit another home run yesterday. That's 5 so far in spring training. Keeping him as a backup infielder, put him in certain lineups and such. He excelled at that last year. He's shown that he has a little pop there. And I think he deserves a spot on this team too. There's just not enough to go around, and especially if you're a guy like Keston, who very limited, and I know Voit is too, limited in the positions that you can play. But if you're not hitting well, and you're limited in the positions that you can play, you're not going to have a job, or you're not going to be in that starting lineup, and it sucks because I think we were all a few years ago on the Keston bandwagon, and it just, for whatever reason, again, it just hasn't been the same. It stinks. All right, tell you what, we're going to take a quick break here, and then we'll get to some of your comments and such. Hit me up with a quick text on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line, 715-830-1912, or on Twitter at DANKASPER, Facebook.com, as well, Facebook.com/Kasper Sports. We got the Bucks back in action tonight, taking on the Spurs. Just 11 more games left to go here in the regular season. 2 games up on Boston for that first seed, 3 up on the 76ers so far. So we'll talk a little Bucks coming up after this quick break. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. We already got a new episode of the Man Cave podcast brought to you by our good friends from Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford uploaded this morning, so it should be available on your favorite podcasting platforms like Apple and Spotify here soon. But we like a little bourbon here in the Man Cave, and Mark and Phil from Hy-Vee, but Mark's kind of the bourbon expert in the area. If you haven't been to some of his tasting events or classes or that, I mean, that guy knows his stuff. But they just got back from Kentucky doing a little bourbon trail and doing some barrel picks that'll be featured for sale over at Hy-Vee here soon. So I got to sit down with both of them, tried out their barrel pick, got a little sample of that too, and we turned on the mics and started recording, started talking a little bourbon, talked a little bit about the bourbon trail. So you can check it out now, or I should say it should be up in a few minutes. Otherwise, it's available now at our website, sportstalk1051.com, if you want to have a little bourbon chat with this morning. Might be a little too early, maybe not for some people, but maybe grab a coffee and a cigar if it's not too early to have a cigar this morning. Good stogie, and listen to a little bourbon podcast there. So got this email from, it looks like, Ben, saying, heard you mention Darnell Washington in the opener. I absolutely want the Packers to grab that guy in the draft. Do you think it would be too high of a pick at 15 to grab him? Right now, I think, yeah. I mean, if you're kind of looking at, the mock drafts and where everything's going at, like, everybody has their, I should say everybody, but I think some people have their favorite mock drafter. Like, who's your favorite NFL draft analyst? For any football people out there or draft people out there, like, who's your favorite draft analyst to follow? So, like, I like, you got the Mel Kipers and the Todd McShays and all that. I like Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network, and he just did his mock draft 3.0, so his third version of it. But I kind of look at that to see where everything's kind of trending and that sort of thing, because they got a good grasp. I mean, they talk to teams and scouts and GMs and all that sort of stuff. And I know a lot of it is a little bit of smoke and mirrors, and it's a little gamesmanship once in a while from teams to try to get a player knocked down on their draft board so they can fall to him. But Washington seems, I mean, 15th pick, I would think is a little too early. But again, I don't know if he's going to be there when the Packers select again in the second round, depending on what they get with this Aaron Rodgers trade. I even if they get the Jets one, I mean, that's 13 second round pick. If they get the Jets second round pick, that's only 2 picks above Green Bay. I feel like he's going to be like very early in the second round, like in the 30s. So as much as I would be good with Darnell Washington as a Packers draft pick, I feel like they might have to move up to get him. I just don't know if he's going to be there. I really don't. I don't have a good gauge of how these tight ends are going to get drafted. I don't, because I'll be curious to see how, if there are teams, because I know it's kind of like a drinking game now for as much as we mentioned this, but teams, scouts, I should say, have always kind of mentioned tight ends being one of the most difficult positions to draft or figure out in a draft. So will there be teams that have that in their back of their minds and be like, okay, plus it's a little bit of a loaded group. We know we could get a guy maybe a little bit later on. I guess what I'm saying here is I'll be curious to see, like, how many tight ends are actually drafted in the first round, or do teams go with the approach of like, we're going to wait a little bit because we know that group is deep, but then you run into those situations where you have a run on a position, right? We've seen that in the draft a lot of times. There's always like, oh, this is the run on safeties, or this is the run on wide receivers. So I'll be curious to see, like, if we get to like past the Packers at 15, or even like past the 20th overall pick, and there isn't a tight end taken off the board, are we going to see a run on those tight ends either in the back end of the first round or in the early part of the second round? Because you got Washington, you got the kid from Notre Dame Mayor, you've got Dalton Kincaid, you've got, Laporte from Iowa. You got options. But I'll just kind of be curious if teams look at that and be like, okay, we know we can get a guy a little bit later on, but then that guy gets pushed down, and then once that, two teams all of a sudden draft a tight end, are we going to get that run? I just don't know if Washington's going to be there. I'm intrigued with it, but again, if I love NFL.com looking at draft profiles. Lance Zierlein does a fantastic job with these profiles. If you kind of want a little bit of a scouting report on your own, if you don't want to watch the film, you don't want to go on YouTube or anything like that and kind of see what other people are saying about these prospects. Which, if anybody who's done the Pro Football Focus mock drafts or those mock drafts online, one tight end that seems like always is in the second round or third round is Luke Musgrave, yet NFL.com has him as the highest graded tight end in this draft. The kid from Oregon State. Dalton Kincaid, Michael Mayer. You got Luke Schoonmaker from Michigan. Sam Laporta from Iowa. If you want to go a little Iowa pedigree with your tight ends. Oh, it's going to be interesting how that group kind of falls, because if we'd use the NFL.com grades, Luke Musgrave is 6.49 grade. Dalton is 6.48. Michael, Darnell, Luke, Tucker Kraft. And then you got Strange from Penn State. Those are 7 tight ends, all between 6.49, 6.21 in grades. I got a Twitter message about the Bourbon So the Bourbon Podcast was just uploaded during the break. It's available on our website, iTunes, or I should say Apple and Spotify. It should be up shortly. Spotify usually gets uploaded before Apple. So, yeah, you want to check it out. Good friends from Hy-Vee, Mark and Phil. It's almost an hour long. So you're going to have to dedicate some time and talking a little bourbon with that one. All right, coming up next hour, we will do a little sports vigilante. We're going to talk about the World Baseball Classic for that, and then we'll talk some hoops. Coming up next hour, 2 Badgers in the Final Four in the NIT, going up against North Texas, and then the NCAA tournament kicks back off tomorrow. We'll finish up the first hour, though, with Morgan. Good morning, Morgan.
What'd you think of the bourbon?
It was good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I did a toury of Buffalo Trace in Kentucky once for the bourbon thing.
Yeah.
And that was interesting to see how they make it and all of that.
Yeah, that was a big one they went on.
So where would you put your bourbon in the lineup of preferred spirits if you're sitting down to enjoy a drink, beer not included?
Yeah. It'd probably be, that and scotch.
And did the guys at Hy-Vee hook you up with how to drink it? Because that's actually an important part of it.
Yep.
It's not just slamming it like an Irish car bomb.
No.
There is an art to drinking it and enjoying it.
Mark is very astute with that.
So what did they give you for tips? Because wine, you got to sniff and swirl and all that. What's a good bourbon tip?
So if you kind of sniff it, but keep your mouth open because of the ethanol.
Ah, okay.
You got to sniff with your mouth open. Kind of same thing. Take a little sip, kind of do it, swish it around with your palate.
That's how
keep your mouth open.
So there is swishing with bourbon.
A little bit, just a little bit. But keep your mouth open because of that ethanol in there too. So yeah, stuff like that. Just kind of the history behind it too.
Now, do you do it neat?
Mark's the knowledge. Yeah, I do it neat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any recommendations that they have for that? Because isn't it kind of low grade sin to mix bourbon with anything?
It is, if you're a diehard one like Mark is, he may once in a while do a drop. He's got his own dropper.
Oh my gosh.
For this.
Of what?
A little bit of water.
Water. Okay.
Yeah, just a little bit. But other than that, no, it's all neat. He calls his man cave the library because it's bookshelves full of bourbon and scotch.
Oh, so that's his deal.
Yes.
Right. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he knows everything about it. So
very nice. Well, so between the two, would you go bourbon or scotch? If you were sitting down, you're watching a game, you want a little something to sip on.
It's my phrase that I came up with: victory scotches,
Mm-hmm.
Bourbon losses.
Okay, that's it. So they each have their own relegated to the win and loss column.
Yep.
That's good.
Bourbon's more for hunting for me too. So.
All right, good to know. I want to be curious to see. So you can check out the podcast. Tell everybody one more time.
Right now it's on our website.
Yeah.
sportstalk1051.com. It should be up on Spotify and Apple like within the next couple of minutes.
Hey, neat. All right.
Nice play on words.
It's the Wednesday wild card. Speaking of playing, I'm going to shuffle these up. We're going to make Kasper completely sober, no bourbon or any other influence today. Answer questions for us, completely random from the pile. All right, buddy. You got to tell us. Ooh, what was the last game that deeply disappointed you?
The last game that deeply where's the Packers schedule?
Not just like you hit it on the chin and that's the way the ball goes. Like actually deeply disappointed you.
Oh man. I mean,
that's going to go deep into bourbon. We'll put it in those terms. Deep into the bourbon column.
Honestly, probably that 49ers playoff game. If I'm being real, I mean, a lot of games disappointing me this year for Green Bay.
That's the most recent and heavy loss, you think?
But that one, I mean, you're the 1 seed. You're at home and all that, and your defense is playing well. Yeah. The one that still gets me very depressed, though, that I don't like talking about it, is the Badger National Championship against Duke.
Oh, yeah?
That one hits me harder than any other game.
So that's like a 2 bourbon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one, I remember coming in the next morning, and I didn't want to talk to anybody.
That was a deep one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's never going to happen again.
I can tell. I can tell by your body language. This is still something we should not pick at the scab, you guys.
No.
This is still fresh.
Yeah.
Still fresh.
So.
All right.
Well, that was quick. But
well, we won't make you relive any more of those then.
Yeah.
At least not with the guys from Hy-Vee over here to
8 years ago now? 7 years? Who cares?
Don't go back there. Don't go back there.
All right. Thanks, Margs.
Anytime.
1 hour in. We got 2 more to go. We'll kick it off with some sports nuggets of the day after these quick news updates. All right, second hour kicking off right now. Appreciate you making us a part of your start on this Wednesday morning of March 22nd. Coming up here, we're going to do a little sports vigilante in about 10 minutes or so. So we'll hit that up. We'll get back to some hoops talk here in a little bit. Bucks back in action tonight. 11 more games left in the regular season here, holding on to that first place spot in the Eastern Conference by 2 games over the Boston Celtics. Badgers picking up the win last night, advancing to the NIT Final Four, where they will take on North Texas. They defeated Badgers defeated Oregon last night, 61-58. March Madness will kick off tip off again starting tomorrow with the Sweet 16. If you want to see where you're at in terms of the leaderboard in our bracket challenge, just head to our website, sportstalk1051.com. You can you click on that icon right on the homepage. Otherwise, click on the subscribe and win tab, and then you can click on the leaderboard. It's right above it, says leaderboard there. Click on there. Otherwise, you can sign in and see your picks and such. But shout out to Aaron, who's in first place by themselves with 47. Kathy, second place, 46. Mike is in third at 45. Adam alone in fourth at 44. Then we've got a group, good group over there, all tied up in fifth place at 43 points. I'm in ninth at 39, but I'm confident yet because I got all of my Final Four teams. Hudson is still beating me by 2 points, and yes, he picked all the games by himself, but he had Duke winning it all. So, Luke, you're in 11th, man.
Oh, I still have some fun. I mean, I still got Alabama and UCLA alive.
Okay. Are you confident in that, though?
Alabama, definitely.
UCLA, probably not. Injuries?
No,
Injuries?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, that's going to be a beast of a.
Who's your final matchup? National champion.
It was UCLA over Alabama.
Oh, okay. So at least you got those 2 Final Four teams left.
And what?
You know who's got all 4 Final Fours left?
You.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Texas is still alive.
Yeah.
So I've got 3 of the 4.
You got Texas in there? Okay.
Yeah.
I asked this on Monday, but if you could redo your Final Four, would you? Like, who would you put in and who would you put out?
See, Alabama's an absolute yes.
Everybody's picked Alabama.
Yeah, and they've got. I mean, it doesn't hurt that they're obviously the number 1 seed, but they're also
their brackets. Let's face it, a little easier, right?
Yeah. Now. Okay, so they're going to get there. I'm bringing up the bracket right now, and of course on our Apple IIe Plus computer. It doesn't help that our computers are now saying like you need to update Windows or you can't go on the internet. Like, oh, okay. So
you got like Kansas State and Tennessee in that region that has no more Purdue, no more Duke, no more Marquette. Got Michigan State still alive in there too.
Yeah, here we go. Okay, I see it. So if I'm picking, I'm gonna come back to that West in a bit. Tennessee is really surprising me. The East is really tough to pick for part of that reason. Michigan State's starting to pull the Izzo thing again, which then that throws everything off. I think it's gonna be. You know what? I'm going to say Kansas State gets through.
That's who I had on my Final Four.
A little chalky, but yes.
Tennessee does make me nervous, though.
So K-State, Alabama on my side, and then
Houston makes me nervous still, even though I have them winning at whole. So I need
Sasser injuries, and
I need the Jim Nance magic to come through.
Yeah, I think Xavier's actually playing pretty well. I would not be surprised if they pull it off. But I think my pick is actually safe right now. Like Texas seems to be the most reliable one at the moment. And then, gosh, people are high on UConn.
Yep.
Really.
They'll beat Arkansas. I think the game of the tournament so far, or I shouldn't say the game of the tournament, the game that I'm most excited about in Sweet 16 is this Gonzaga UCLA game. Man. That's going to be a great game.
Gosh. Yeah, I can't decide which one I think is going to win. Like, okay.
If I could switch one of mine, I would put UConn in over UCLA. I'm just a little concerned with health and that, and UConn just playing really well and playing with a lot of confidence right now.
Yeah. That's just such. I think I'm going to go. Who do I want to like? And then, like I said, I picked UCLA. Injury thing. I think I'm just going to go with the field and say UConn.
Yeah.
Just just cause.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I might as well.
I also think Xavier in Texas is going to be a good game too.
Yeah.
I know it's a little chalky-ish with the 2-3s, but I mean, come on. I think Alabama, San Diego State could be interesting too, depending on which version of San Diego State. Houston versus Miami. Miami always makes me nervous. I mentioned it before the tournament started. Miami is one of those teams that always make me nervous because I'm like, I can see them making a little bit of a run, but then I can see that they always have those games that just they flame out then.
Mm-hmm.
Larinaga has done a fantastic job over there, though.
He's got some serious pedigree. By the way, I was reminded that listening to SV Pod yesterday that we are coming up on speaking of Gonzaga UCLA, the 17-year anniversary of the Adam Morrison game.
Oh gosh.
And you know what? You know what I got brought up here? Let's take a listen. The game that put Gus Johnson on the map.
Oh boy.
Here we go.
At 69%. They throw it to Morrison. He holds on. You don't want to foul Morrison. You make him get it over half court. You know you got to foul. And it's
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the one where Gus Johnson like about for 1 second, like he just stopped speaking words. It's the best. Is that the best Gus Johnson call of all time? Most memorable, but is it the best?
Maybe. I mean, I know they tried him out at different points. I know he did a little college football. He does a little college football. Would they try him at soccer?
Yeah,
that just doesn't work.
No.
Gosh, probably. I think Gus Johnson, and this is not a Gus Johnson fault. It got to a point where people want him to do every game because he gets so animated.
Yeah.
But there's certain sports it just does not work out with.
Right.
It just doesn't.
Tennis. Let's try that. No, that's not.
I want Gus Johnson on golf.
Gosh. He hit the phone.
Can Gus Johnson watch the Tiger chip in at the Masters and like just call it like it's live?
The thing is, he for a long time he's refined and got the smooth style, and that's how he would call that.
I know, but
it would sound cool, but
bring up the monitor, Gus, pretend it's live, get like everybody amped up that it's gonna go in, and then it stops, and then it just trickles in like the wave of emotions there. Wow. By the way, did you see was it the Virginia game with Kevin Harlan?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the video of that?
I did not.
Okay. I don't know if this is how it goes every single game, but we're talking about, when was it Furman made that 3 off the steal?
Mm-hmm.
How animated Kevin Harlan is calling the game, like his body.
Oh, wow.
Like he's all over the place.
I've got to look at that.
Yeah, you got to look that up. But like he's one of the best too at play-by-plays. But watching him, how animated he's actually getting, it's like, all right, I love Kevin Harlan even more. Because we don't get to see that, obviously, right? We don't get to see how animated they are. He's like moving his arms. He's got them spread out. It's like he's trying to hold back Stan Van Gundy, but Stan Van Gundy's not even moving.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm watching this right. I'm not going to do a play-by-play because that's stupid. But I already I can see some of this. Yep.
He's just going nuts, and I love that.
Oh boy, yeah. That's. One that's holding the arms out.
Yeah.
My gosh.
Everybody can go look it up. We know we're doing it justice here. So
yeah, again, us describing doesn't work. Furman, Kevin Harlan, Virginia. Just look it up on whatever platform you find where you watch video stuff, and you'll be glad you did.
Yeah.
It's cool.
He's going nuts on there, and I love it. So all right, let's do some sports nuggets of the day, brought to you by Ansay Associates. The English Football League was established in 1888. 1893, Northampton, Massachusetts, the first women's collegiate basketball game was played at Smith College. 1894, the first playoff competition for the Stanley Cup began. Montreal defeated Ottawa 3-1. A patent was issued for a, quote, baseball catcher. How about that? Let's go. A lot of firsts here. 1923, Foster Hewitt used a telephone to broadcast the first hockey game. He called the game between Kitchener and Toronto Parkdale. All right. 1934. I'm going to come back to that one. Let's go. Muhammad Ali, 1967, was stripped of his heavyweight title for refusing to be inducted into the United States Army. 1969, UCLA beat Purdue to become the first college basketball team to win 3 straight NCAA tournaments. The NFL announced in 1994 the addition of the 2-point conversion. Still hard for me to believe because I was probably really young at that's when the 2-point conversion. It was the first league's first scoring change in 75 seasons. Can you refresh my young memory, Luke? Was that a big thing in 94 that they added the 2-point conversion? Do you know? Do you remember off the top?
Like, I don't think it was a huge, like, oh my gosh, what are they? But it was a big deal.
Yeah.
For sure. And I mean, I was definitely old enough to have had already a good amount of football here. It was a big deal, but not controversial. The notion of going for 2, I think, like now, it's probably more controversial because of the whole analytics say we need to go for 2 midway through the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe that's actually true. But I don't remember it being like a wow, this is going to screw up football. Not maybe. I think I kind of liked it because it threw in another wrinkle.
Yeah.
So but I don't seem to remember it being like pulling out hairs over anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
A replay, I think it would even causes more than the 2-point conversion because at least the 2-point conversion, it's just another option,
right?
As opposed to you're prohibiting this, you're blowing this up. It's more strategizing.
Yeah. We've got 1997 Tara Lipinski at 14 years old and 10 months became the youngest women's world figure skating champion. And then let's go back to 1934 because this will be the first time that I can play this, but it will be many times. Yes. The first Masters began in Augusta, Georgia, 1934. How about that? I'm sure this is probably the first time that this theme song was played too, in 1934. Not, but, any guesses on who do you think won the first Masters?
Oh boy, is it a name?
Well, it is somebody's name. He did win it multiple times. I'll put it down.
Okay, then I don't know.
Horton Smith. Horton Smith, 2-time winner at the Masters. Want to guess his score to under par?
Let's see. He shot. Of course, the course was different because it evolves like every course evolves over time. Let's say, is it like a wow?
No.
Okay, I'm going to say 7 under.
Not bad. 4 under.
Okay.
I'm scrolling through the winners right now and the winning scores. Only one time it looks like the wings. Or wait, nope, 2 times. This is interesting here. 2 times the winning score has been over par since 1934. And one was actually fairly recent. Wait, it might be 3. There's a lot. No, is it just 2? 3. My bad. There's 3 times. Sam Snead was the first one. That's pretty darn good golfer. Won over in 1954. Jack Burke Jr. won over in 1956. And then 2007. 2007. We did have an even par Jack Nicklaus when he won it in 66. But then in 2007, that was the Zach Johnson one.
Huh.
When he shot one over there too.
What we're saying is the math is too easy.
Yeah. But then that's just the weird one with 2007, right? Because the year before, Phil Mickelson won it 7 under. The year before that, Tiger Woods 12 under.
Yeah.
And then the year after Zach Johnson won it, Trevor Immelman won it 8 under. Then 12 under, then 16 under.
All right, so I'll throw this out there. It is Augusta National too easy of a course, given that the history we just laid out always produces, short of the rare circumstance, an under par finish.
I don't know if I'd say easy. I think a lot of golfers are just very familiar with it now, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Pebble Beach is the same thing. You look at some of those scores, and they're like, wow, they're under par quite a bit. I mean, that's where Tiger Woods just demolished the course record, right? So, I mean, you look at it, Scotty Scheffler shot 10 under last year. Hideki Matsuyama, 10 under. Dustin Johnson scorched her 20 under. Then Tiger 13 under, Patrick Reed 15 under, Sergio 9 under. And we got to remember those are 4 days worth. So
Yeah.
But I think it's just familiarity with everything.
That makes, I mean, like, that's one of the, gosh, is that the only course where even I, who has never been to Augusta, Georgia, period, can already tell you some of the ins and outs of the course just because I've watched it every year for, I don't know how many years of my life. And most all of us listening to this show right now have done some variation of the same. We can describe the 15th hole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We know some of the quirks and layouts of that. I mean, if we went there, it's the closest thing we'd come to be like, all right, I think I know how to approach this one. Whereas, like, just pull out some random course, like the one by Tulsa where they had the U.S. Open.
Oh, yeah.
I'm blanking on the name of it, but you know which one. I would have no clue.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the ins and outs of that course, but this one we do.
So I'm looking at this 2007 Masters just because I'm like, that's such the oddball, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's other factors. Weather could be a factor, you know, all that sort of stuff. But Zach shot one over. There was a 3-way tie for second, and they all shot 3 over, which included Retief Goosen. Remember Retief?
The Goose.
Rory Sabatini, and Tiger Woods. And tied for 5th at 4 over, Wisconsin's very own Jerry Kelly.
Wow. Wow. Don't really hear too many Jerry Kelly references.
Not for PGA, more for senior stuff now, but yeah, that was his best finish at the Masters.
Huh. Well, that's
tied for 5th.
Interesting.
So, yeah. But that's just the oddball year in that 2007. That's why I had to look it up. So
I'm trying to remember that. I don't remember too much of that year of the Masters of that.
Reading a little bit here, it says Johnson's victory dispelled the notion that only long hitters could win the Masters. He did not reach a single par 5 hole in 2 during the entire tournament, yet played the par 5s better than anyone in the field with 11 birdies and no bogeys.
Was the weather a little different? That's
what I'm trying to find out here a little bit, but I'll look at it during the break and such.
Weather Underground actually has like a full day by day, hour by hour of like any location. Like if you want to look up if you were born in Eau Claire, I'm like, well, actually, like if I wanted to find out where I was born in La Crosse in May 19th, 1978, if I wanted to see hour by hour what the weather was like that day, I can find it thanks to Weather Underground. So we can do the same for Augusta in April of
2007.
Yep, and see. Again, I'm trying to remember. Was it windy? That was one of those cold windy.
April 5th through the 8th.
Okay,
2007.
I could do some meteorological analysis here.
Break it down for us, man.
Yes, have more.
Also, let me know when the snow is going to melt. So.
Oh, that's right.
Because we're at that point in time.
Yes,
now, so.
yes. Okay, I'm gonna think about that just a bit.
Give me a date.
Okay.
Should we do that for listeners? Like, all right, the date that the first golf course in our immediate area opens.
So that's going to be different necessarily than all the snow melted, too.
Right.
You got to wait. Remember, folks, got to wait for the ground to actually get in good shape. You can't just like run out there like, hey, it's melted.
Yeah.
And then they're angry that you ruined the course.
What are we going to get for the first? I'm not asking which course, but in our immediate area. And when I say immediate area, I know we got listeners all across, but like worth a drive. Let's say an hour radius. Is that fair?
Yes.
An hour radius. Okay. First,
that gets you to the border west of here. That gets you down close to La Crosse.
Gets us to like Abbotsford, Colby over there too.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
You're going up towards Rice Lake, so that's pretty solid. Okay, I'll do a little at the break. I'll do some weather digging between those two aspects and have a couple answers for you on the other side.
All right, sounds good. Let's take a break then, and let's do a little sports vigilante. World Baseball Classic version of Sports Vigilante. How about that? So we'll talk about that. Quick break. We'll be back after these few words. Since we were talking a little golf, that reminder, April 7th is going to be a lot of fun. We'll be doing the show live from IV for the Friday of the Masters. The really cool thing that we're going to be doing here, big shout out to our friends from Carpet City Flooring Center putting together that putting green for us. We're going to have a little putting challenge. Everybody's going to get 3 putts. And what our good friends from Carpet City Flooring Center is doing too, they got a new Odyssey putter, a new Callaway driver. You're eligible to win that. The more putts you make with your 3 putts, the more tickets you're going to get. But everybody who tries it's at least going to get a ticket in there. So that's going to be going on. We're going to be doing a show there from starting off at 6 o'clock in the morning. Stop by if you got to work that day. Come in, try a couple putts, see if you qualify, see if you get entered to win or to potentially win that putter or driver. And I will have my putter there. But if you're going to be one of those that's going to blame the putter, bring your own. Or if you're a lefty surveyor, bring your own putter in, unless you want to try to showcase your skills with the right-handed putter. So, but you can bring yours in. Otherwise, I'll have mine there. If you'd rather just use that, I don't want to bring my putter. I'll have mine there. So, but that should be a lot of fun there. Looking forward to that. I think Ivy's going to be doing like a Masters theme menu there too. Pimento cheese sandwiches there, Lucas. So.
Whoa, really?
Yep.
They're serving what? Okay.
April 7th.
I'm gonna have to be there for that.
Yep.
I know all the liquor now and the pimento cheese sandwiches. Yes.
Yep. So
I am gonna have to come.
Well, they already got pimento cheese there. They got the spread in that too.
They do?
Yeah.
Oh,
yep.
Cool. Well, for whatever reason I can't get in, maybe I'm on toddler duty that day. I might have to just grab some ticket home and watch the Masters with my daughter, because I'm sure she's going to be a golf aficionado.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. I'm so pumped.
Well, she's going to end up like my wife and just spend the golf course time on the cart, day drinking.
Yeah, that's pontoon, man. That's a pontoon. So
pretty much. By the way, I was just thinking of this like the last couple of days. Maybe we have not yet scheduled this, so I might be. Good.
We got a lot of stuff happening.
Good. I will try to attend that one. I think I have a little easier time, and hopefully I will not be like freshly infected with COVID-19 and potentially spreading it to people like I was last year.
Oh Jesus, that's
like okay. I found out like the next couple of days I was very much contagious. So you're welcome, Chippewa Valley.
Wow. Yeah, don't come to anything now. So
just stay home.
So yeah,
basically like normal.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff. Got opening day viewing party next week. We're gonna be at West Side for a little bit from 12 to 2 next Friday, and then we got the Packers tailgate tour, and then we got the Masters thing, and then draft party. So
gosh, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, it really is. Let's catch up on a couple things here before we get to a little sports vigilante. Did you look up the weather, by the way?
I did. It was one of those cool years because the average high in early August is like mid 70s. And the 4 days that year, like the first couple days, the highs were in like the mid 60s. That Saturday was windy out of the northwest, like 15, 20 mile an hour sustained. Highs in the 50s. Sunday, not as windy, but highs in the 50s.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, that could have been a big reason. No rain, best as I could tell. That gets a little dodgy, but cool and in part windy. That probably screwed up the scores a little bit.
Were the azaleas in bloom, though?
If the temps are in the 50s, the azaleas may have closed themselves up and be like, we're just going to sit this one out.
Oof.
That's not exactly fun.
No.
As for, because you also asked about when will the snow be cleared? Because the 8 to 14 day outlook is calling for slightly below normal temps, which now the normals are mid 40s here. So 8 to 14 days, that'd be about 50. So we're talking probably highs in the mid 40s, which still it's not like it's not like one of those years, we would be stuck at like 35 and every couple of days we'd have like snow rain showers from like the beginning of March through mid-April. It's not that. I'm going to say, because there's still some pretty hefty snowbanks out there, depending on where you're at. I will say April 13th.
Oof.
For everything clear.
Oh, okay.
Now, after that, it's up to the golf courses to decide.
Yeah.
Because there are going to be some courses where, like, the fairways are right in the sun. They're already probably borderline melted at this point. and they can open up immediately. And then there are others that are very shaded, and they're going to take a long time.
Okay.
You know, like that thing where you drive along I-94 and like one side is completely snow covered and the other side is already all barren. It's that thing. I'm going to say April 13th for everything cleared. I'm going a little long. I'm probably good. It's probably going to be sooner than that, but that's kind of the safe approach.
All right. Surveyor went April 18th. His pick on there.
Okay.
A couple other ones here. We got Bloomer Tony. Morning, Dan. I don't think the Packers should reach for Washington or move to get him. Zach Kuntz from Old Dominion has very similar skill set and size and will be available later. Living a dream, Jeff. Packers could trade up to get the big tight end, trade the third and second round. Packers haven't drafted decent the third in a long time. This is from a little bit earlier. We're talking about the Brewers. Drew from Eau Claire. We were going through Matt Arnold's Q&A. I wouldn't buy that statement with a $10 out of your pocket. I think that's what it's supposed to say. I think he was talking about the Matt Arnold Mark Anasio comment. That was a typical don't talk bad about the guy who pays you type of thing. While it sucks we are paying Yelich so much for what we get or what we got out of him, we also have to remember the contract didn't break his production. His injury is what turned the corner there. Big Worm, morning Dan. How comfortable are you with the Bucks 2-game lead in the East? Out of all the years, do you think the number one seed is very important? Who needs the number one seed the most? Bucks, Celtics, 76ers. I've mentioned this a few times. I think you and I have talked about it, Luke. This Luke over here.
Yeah.
I think it's incredibly important this year. I think it's when you look at these home and away records, I think the one seed is incredibly important. Also to the fact that you don't have to play the Celtics or the 76ers in the second round. Let those two teams beat up each other in the semis so you can face them in the conference finals.
Yes.
That's why I think the one seed this year is very, very, very important. Not only for the fact that these teams have been good at home, but to avoid one of those teams in the second round.
What's the count of games remaining?
11 games left in the regular season.
Not bad. I think the Bucks can do it.
I think they can too. And I'm looking at, they play both Boston and Philly back-to-back, but it's in Milwaukee. March 30th, Boston, April 3rd, or April 2nd, Philly.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at that stretch, and then they got Washington, Chicago, and Memphis and Toronto after that.
They should be able to get the one seed.
Yeah.
It's the way they're playing, the way everyone, they should. Yeah, I think it's more important there.
I think they'll get it.
Even over, gosh, the West is weird. I was looking at the standings, was it yesterday, the day before? And like between 6 and 13, it seems there's like maybe a 2-game difference. Like as a Timberwolves fan, I'm being lassoed back and forth between, hey, they're gonna be a lock in the playoffs, and oh no, they're not gonna make the play-in tournament. But that's because it's so tight out there. And none of those, then the thing is, none of those teams are going to make the championship. I mean, you could have one team going a bit of a run, but it's still going to be top heavy. And at this point, why would it not be the Nuggets? Like maybe the Suns still do, but we're getting back into perilous Brooklyn Nets. Just wait till they're all healthy territory, which we waited for like years. So yeah, I think home field's going to matter. Home court, will matter a decent amount of the West. But I agree, East is a bigger deal.
I totally agree. West is, I mean, unless you're Memphis, who's just like the total opposite. 14 and 22 on the road, 30 and 5 at home. Yeah. Josh with a tweet saying April 22nd for the snow gone.
Wow.
I don't like that.
Some snow pessimism out there. Well, maybe realism. I mean, again, that's the thing with our climate of late. Spring seems to kind of wait to kick in. And when it does, it's like, hi, for like 3 days. And then bam, we're into summer, which sucks. This spring is such a nice time of year. And of late,
I
think I know why, unfortunately, but of late, we're not getting it anymore. We got these cold pseudo springs and then right to average summer. I mean, at least summer has not been unbearable, but can we segue a little longer? It's kind of nice when it's like 60 degrees.
Well, as long as it's, fairly gone, because I've got turkey hunting coming up in April, so don't make it too rough on me out there, Mother Nature.
Yeah, that's true.
This is a random tweet. Do you guys have any hats or stickers? No. Maybe we can work on that.
Did we ever make baseball caps? I'm trying to remember. Didn't we?
We had some, very limited. I think, mostly for like in-house sort of stuff.
Okay.
That way, but No, I don't have any like in a couple boxes or anything like that. But
Okay.
are stickers still a thing? Do people put stickers on?
No. Well, I mean, okay, you see them on cars, yes.
Yeah.
But like radio stations don't really do stickers anymore.
Okay.
I can't tell you how many sticker requests I've gotten over the decades. Gosh, it isn't decades. And we never have any stickers.
No.
Like it used to be a thing when I got here like in 2001. Yeah, stickers were a thing, but they aren't, and they haven't been in a long time.
Do you still put stickers on your vehicles?
Nope.
Let me know.
I
people.
do not. I used to. I don't.
I got one. I got one. It's a little Packer one, but that's it. And I shouldn't have said that so people look out for my vehicle then, but no.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, the thing is also, I'm one of those types where it has, when I did put any sticker on, it had to be perfectly aligned. And if it's a little bit off and then it's stuck there, like, dang it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got to try to pull it off and then it's coming off and then you just got to live with it for a long time. No, I don't even bother.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, let's save Sports Vigilante because we're going to have to take a break here in a couple minutes. So we'll save it for the next break.
Okay.
How about that? We're going to talk about the World Baseball Classic on it. Did you, before we get to that though, how much were you following the World Baseball Classic and how much were you into it?
Good amount.
Yeah.
I'll be perfectly honest. I forgot about the quarterfinals. So the last one was being played, Team USA, but that's in part because the tournament was also happening. There's, again, like I say, sports bandwidth. There's just so much going on. And then when you're also living your life of like being, like in my case, young parent, regular work, and like, wait, what? Oh my gosh, we're almost to the semifinals. But that happens with other stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
But I had the game on last night constantly. I was as much as doing, again, usual parental familial duties. Oh yeah, I was watching.
We got the matchup everybody wanted in the bottom of the ninth.
Okay,
yeah.
Can I take a moment to talk about how rare and how awesome that was?
Go for it.
That was okay. If the beginning of the World Baseball Classic, knowing that Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout were going to take part, among a whole lot of like this was probably the best one in terms of athletes involved, like really good athletes involved. But we knew that was looming at some point if everything matched up just right. And then when we started to get out of the pools, you're like, oh, okay, the path's definitely there. Certain teams are losing, and okay. But then you heard that, well, Ohtani's not starting, and he hasn't pitched in relief in 7 years.
Yeah.
So this is not going to happen. But then it happens on what is setting up to be the first deciding play of the game. And I have to call it that because for Team USA, they could not have won it on Trout. I mean, gosh, if Betts hadn't hit into a double play, it could have been the deciding one because you would have had guys on with 2 outs.
Yeah.
Then it literally could have been the either or proposition. But still, how many times? Gosh, I'm throwing in another question that could be a pretty deep one. How many times do we see arguably the 2 best athletes in a sport go head to head, like in an individual play? They are against each other. They will determine the outcome based on how they match with each other to determine a championship.
Not many, since those 2 are on the same team too.
Right,
That's
right.
Yeah.
And I know there's certain sports you can't have like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes on the same play. Well, that's impossible unless you're getting one of them to play linebacker. Some you can. I mean, tennis, it happens all the time, but that's because it's an individual sport. But in a team sport,
yeah, basketball sometimes, depending on if it's the top 2 players.
Yeah, and I know we're a little more positionless, but what are the odds you're going to get like Steph versus Giannis with 2 seconds left, Game 7 of the NBA Finals?
Right,
you could, but that wouldn't make sense. But as I'm watching this all materialize, and at the top of the inning, and I see Trout sitting in the dugout, I'm like, oh my gosh. This is really going to happen. And it did. Like, I was dumbfounded for like 10 minutes even after watching that. And it was a good at bat too. And then Ohtani strikes him out and he's like, I don't know how long we'll remember that moment, but that's sports culture should value that more. Maybe we did, but we should keep valuing what we saw last night because that is such a rare occurrence.
Right.
And I don't know when we're going to see something. We might, but I don't know when we're going to see something like that again in a team sport. It was that was the best way to end it last night, short of a walk-off home run.
All right, so let's take a break, but there is something I'm gonna bring back up here, or I'm gonna bring up for the World Baseball Classic for Sports Vigilante.
Okay,
I'll do that. Little tease, but we'll take that break and then finish up the second hour already. And then I'll tell you the 2 years coming up after the break, too, for our second round of Showdown.
Okay.
All right, so I think for the most part, a lot of people enjoyed the World Baseball Classic, right?
Yeah, I think ratings were a little bit up from, I know it's 6 years, my gosh, but it doesn't feel like that long, but it has been. Yeah, so
Yeah.
ratings were up some. I haven't seen what last night or the semifinals have been. It's too fresh on that, but hey, it was getting outside of the injuries. The buzz was good. It was positive.
Lars Nussbaum,
Yeah.
the game with Ohtani and Trout ending the game the way they did. I think baseball won again. I just think this World Baseball Classic as a whole kind of elevated the game, and I hope the exposure that it got creates baseball fans all over the world.
Which is, let's remind everyone, that's the point. It's not necessarily for we Americans, because the biggest criticisms of the World Baseball Classic, you can always tell it's American sports fans.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not why the World Baseball Classic, it's not for you. It's for Major League Baseball to become internationally popular, like the NFL in Germany, like the NBA in Asia, et cetera, et cetera. That's the point. They're building the business.
So maybe that's where this sports vigilante is going to go then, Lucas, because it was on the DA show a little bit earlier. I brought it up the other day. Does it need to get more exposure in the United States? Because when it was on FS1, right?
Right.
That's not what I think of when I think about watching a baseball game is FS1. Now, I get FS1, so it's not that big of a deal, but does it need to be more embraced here in the United States? Does it need to be on the mothership? When I think of a baseball game, I'm thinking of, Fox and ESPN, and I know FS1, Fox, and that sort of thing, but does it need to be embraced more in the United States? Or don't you think it needs to?
Well, I went to Fox a couple times, and then I'd be like, oh, they're on commercial again, walk out, and then come back like, what's the, FS1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which thankfully I also happen to have, but I don't know that, actually FS1 seems to be remarkably available for a kind of under the radar sports channel.
Right.
But hey, I had it so I could watch it. Cool. Not everyone can do that. See, this is a fascinating sports vigilante for the reasons that we've all laid out, that you would think an event that Major League Baseball clearly wants to promote
Mm-hmm.
and has promoted plenty, and an event where the participants really seem to be enjoying it too.
Yeah.
Like the best ambassadors, evangelists, whichever term you want to use for the World Baseball Classic have been the players, between how they've acted on the field,
Yep.
getting really excited about this. And I know some of this is also like the Caribbean teams. Like anytime you get Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic playing each other, it's Game 7 of the World Series every game.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to see a little bit of that. And I mean, if you remember the World Baseball Classic, you got some of that back in those games too, in those years as well. But Team USA getting really into it this year, whereas maybe if you go back to the early years of the WBC, maybe not as much.
Mm-hmm.
And the comments too, what you just heard from, what was his name again?
Lars
Newbar.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, you're going to hear more of that guy too in the Major League Baseball season as well.
Well, even Trout after the game too, he said, talking about his matchup with Ohtani, he said, as a baseball fan, everybody wanted to see it. He won round 1. So, I mean, that's like, okay, even though they're teammates, you got a little bit of tip of the cap, round 1. I'll get you next time.
And let's be real, I think round 2 may come as early as the 2024 Major League Baseball season.
That's sure, yeah.
I don't think Trout, I think Trout will still be an Angel. After that, we'll see.
I don't know about Ohtani,
yeah. So, yeah, they're all making the case for it. But there's that other thing of the World Baseball Classic is not too... I mean, if it grows baseball in the United States, that's obviously all a plus.
Mm-hmm.
And it needs it. The youngest generation, Gen Z, we've seen the numbers, saw a fresh batch a couple weeks ago or like 3 weeks ago, a poll of NFL fans. And so what's your other favorite sport? And you see it broken down demographically speaking. And baseball, like among older NFL fans, pretty solid. Youngest batch.
Is it basketball?
It's definitely basketball.
Yeah.
Soccer's up there. That's a little bit. You could also break it down by demographic too, like especially younger Black fans really into the NBA, younger Hispanic fans really into soccer.
Mm-hmm.
White fans tend to be a little bit more like hockey and baseball. Think of where the sports are popular in the country, especially by geographic reason or region or city versus country, if you will. Then you kind of get the idea.
Mm-hmm.
But the point being, baseball, it's not going the way of boxing and horse racing, but they need more fandom down there. But that's not the World Baseball Classic's duty. That you got 6 months of regular season plus postseason to do that. Spend that there. So do we try to make a bigger deal out of the World Baseball Classic in America? I think to a degree. as long as Rob Manfred is committed to doing it. And what do you know? Last night he said 100%. It's back in 2026. In fact, what was his quote though? Not his quote, but the essence of it was like, we need to find a way to get better pitchers involved.
That was my next vigilante then thing too. I know we're running out of time, but it's like you look at the starting pitching for Team USA, right?
I barely recognized who was pitching last night in the deciding game, and I know all the position players and the pitchers come up. I'm like, who?
But you look at the names that you do recognize is like Lance Lynn. It's like, okay, no offense to Lance Lynn, but can we get a little younger? A little bit more explosive pitchers. Like, there may be some fans saying, "Where's Corbin Burns?"
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Corbin Burns was just reported he's got a new agent, Mr. Boris. So yeah, there you go. Bye bye Milwaukee.
Yeah, that Ohtani Burns pitchers duel and some other two teams is going to be fun in 2024. That's the tougher one, honestly, because like I said, I
and
really,
does the injuries to like an Edwin Diaz?
Yes, that's going to come up. I don't think.
And the thing is, he didn't get hurt pitching; he got hurt celebrating.
Yeah, why do we have it? I know the Kendrys Morales thing is a decade old. It's 11 years old, but this seems to happen a lot in baseball. Celebrate and then someone gets kind of injured. I do think, okay, and again, an asterisk for the Caribbean nations because of how they approach the game. It's a little different. And again, I don't play baseball, but man, it seems like baseball teams celebrate way more than teams in other sports. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, we clinched a wild card. Massive celebration. We clinched the division. Massive celebration. Win the first round series, the best 2 out of 3. Massive. Like, it happens all the time in baseball. Like, you realize how many opportunities you have to step on someone. Like, chill out a little bit. I get it. But then I don't play the sport, so I don't live it day to day and all the tension release. The pitcher thing is the tougher one. I don't think Manfred's going to be because he's running the ship, and this was Selig's idea. Now it's Manfred's thing. It's going to stay around. World Baseball Classic will not go away. If you wanted to, sorry. If you don't want it to, you're in luck. I'm in camp too. I'm glad. We're probably always going to have it. He's not worried about growing it in America. He wants to grow it in Israel and the Czech Republic and Spain and all of those places. That's good. Making a more international sport, more international fans, more merch, more streaming subscriptions. That's how you make your money. That's why they do it. It's for the same reason the NFL is playing in Germany. Okay, so the pitcher thing, that's a tough one.
Especially the current state of how pitching is perceived.
Yes.
And I mean, you're going to have teams maybe kind of trying to throw their weight behind, like not wanting their guys throwing in this. Pitchers, I mean, especially maybe a pitcher who's going into a contract year may not want to participate in something like that.
Yeah.
If it devalue,
of course, on the other hand, if they pitch really well on a high-profile stage in March, and then you got the whole season ahead of you to add to that, I mean, they could add to it.
Let's say Corbin Burns was going to be a free agent after this year, though. Given that he's already hyped up and he's already kind of, a Cy Young Award winner, would he go out there and do that?
I want him to.
I do too, yeah.
But
from a business standpoint, I don't know if he would.
And I don't know. Tell you what, can we do a post vigilante? Because the pitcher one's a tough one. The visibility thing, I think that's going to come naturally. Network streaming services will make a bigger deal out of it as the World Baseball Classic becomes bigger. And thankfully, it's only 3 years away this time instead of the usual 4-year gap. And because the 2021 got postponed to this year because of the pandemic.
Right.
So that helps a bit. But it's one of those, it'll just kind of come with time. Plus, 10 years from now, what's just to throw out a time? How are the networks and the streaming services going to look then? We don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But the pitcher thing is a tough one. So after the break, I'll try to have my vigilante answer.
Okay. We got stock reports too. So we'll do some stock reports. Your 2 years, by the way, 74 and 89.
Okay.
74 and 89 for our second round of Showdown. Final hour coming up after these news updates. All right, final hour kicking off on this Making a Turn Wednesday. Hopefully, you're all off to a fantastic start. Appreciate you tuning in. Before we get to some stock reports coming up here, we got, then after that, we also have our next showdown, our second round matchup between 74 and 89. But Luke, do you have a vigilante thought? Can we just make it all initial outgetters and relief pitchers so we don't have to worry about starting pitchers?
Oh, gosh. Tampa Bay raise this thing?
Yeah.
Side note, so last night was I don't know exactly how international baseball rules will evolve over the next several years, but it was the last gasp for the baseball we've come to know and not really love over the past few years. The shift.
Yeah.
Pitchers and batters taking a really long time between at bats or pitches, I should say. Well, both. Gosh, there were some dead stretches in there. For a 3-2 game, it took about 3 hours 15, 3 hours 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm looking at all going, that's going away, at least for Major League Baseball. I mean, I don't mind the shift again if it's to like win. If you're doing it strategically, if you're doing this to win, I get that. So I mean, it's more annoying because we've seen it so often in baseball. Though I understand the circumstances there. Mark DeRosa, of course, he's got to throw the shift out last night. Like, oh, it's legal. I can do this still here. Yes, I will. Good. And they didn't win the game, but I understand why he did it.
Right.
But the pitcher thing. I think it's going to have to be some combination, not requirement, because players tend to recoil at that. Even if you got the position players being strong advocates, it seems as though every time Major League Baseball makes an edict, it backfires because of the whole owner-player thing. This is a dynamic that goes back for a long time. I think you're going to have to put in some serious financial incentive for the pitchers. That's
what I was kind of wondering. Do you kind of give them a little moolah
and
a little dough?
And you might have to make that clear to the position players that, look, we're not getting the pitchers in. Now, how much of this are the pitchers choosing not to, and how much of this are the general managers refusing?
Right.
So that actually the incentive might need to be to the general managers. Now, I don't think you can quite go to the point of, well, come on. Well, we'll start giving you draft picks. Well, now that gets into competitive balance, and you got to be careful not to affect the Major League Baseball season too much. Now, the counter to that might be well, you already did. Diaz is gone. Side note, have you rested Timmy Trumpets?
No.
So we're going to hear Timmy Trumpets more in Western Wisconsin than we are in New York this year.
Well, honor. In memoriam.
Oh, gosh.
Let me throw this out there. Could you increase, so to help pacify maybe some of the general managers, do you put restrictions on how much a pitcher can go, but then you increase the amount of pitchers you can carry?
Possibly so. That's the trick. The balance between pay, amount of time they can pitch, the pitch limits, but not being required to have anyone pitch. And there's still some teams that are no's. The Yankees Brian Cashman's like, nope, we're not taking part. And I don't know if he'll still be the GM in 2026. He probably still will be, despite the contract. You know how it goes in Yankee world. Probably still not going to have anyone there. So Garrett Cole would probably still be unavailable. But then again, Aaron Judge was also unavailable. Yet we didn't have Aaron Judge, and it seemed to be okay.
Right.
You don't need all of them. You just need some of them. We can't have it where big baseball fans like me are trying to figure out who is pitching the deciding game of the World Baseball Classic. That's competitively speaking, that didn't match Japan, because Japan had two of the best pitchers on the planet in this series between Ohtani and Sasaki. Folks, get ready for Roki Sasaki. Get ready. When he comes to Major League Baseball, I don't know if he's going to be an Ohtani level phenomenon that we might be experiencing the unicorn right now, but Roki Sasaki is going to be bleeping awesome when he comes over. Just you wait to see which team gets him. But they had those guys. So who's the American equivalent of those two players in the pitching world? And we didn't see that.
Right.
We didn't have Verlander. We didn't have Scherzer. I know those are older, but we didn't see them. I think it's going to have to be some combination of financial incentive to say, well, you're the pitcher. You get paid more because of your position. And this is going to be the structure now.
Right.
Combine that with maybe there's a draft pick thing. Like, we're going to give you like an 8th rounder. I know that sounds a little like, really? But if you do it at just the right level, there are going to be some GMs that are going to jump at it because some hoard those picks like gold.
Right.
I think that's the only way you can do it. Short of that, I don't know. But I would say, above all, talk to the GMs. It's not an agent thing necessarily. It's not a pitcher thing necessarily. Talk to the GMs. Get them to buy in. I think you solve a lot of problems based on who's available for these games.
All right, let's do some stock reports before we get to a little showdown. All right, here we go. Let's start off with whose stock is rising. I'm going to go Rick Pitino, baby. He's back. Rick Pitino is back, baby. Even though he said that, Iona was going to be his last job. Come on, we all should have known better than that, right? I mean, so he's back in the Big East, officially the new St. John's head coach. I know Rick Pitino has his issues, all that sort of stuff, but I think strictly from just basketball sense, college basketball is better with Rick Pitino coaching.
So that segues perfectly to mine. Big East basketball.
Ooh.
Between him, the Cooley move to Georgetown, and what Georgetown's going to be now that they've figured out their coaching situation. Sorry, Patrick. Wow, the Ewing theory is going to apply in multiple ways.
Right? No kidding, man. So.
I know I'm making a prediction here. Maybe not, but Cooley's going to be a much better coach.
Yeah.
And Georgetown is in position to leap fast. St. John's is kind of in position to leap pretty fast as well. And then everything else in the Big East. We already know about Marquette. Already know about UConn. Providence is going to have to regroup, but
Villanova, we'll see.
But I can't imagine Nova's going to go back to like the 90s when we kind of forgot they existed. Creighton, there's just, man.
Big East is back, baby.
Remember an SV pod, they were talking about the Requiem for the Big East thing, which it was true at the time. It sucked. Well, this is awesome.
Yeah. I got actually 2 more stock risers. I'm going to give you mood today.
Wow, cool.
I'm going to give you another one is another college basketball coach, believe it or not. Tobin Anderson. Dude, does anybody know a little bit? So, yeah, you got the Farley Dickinson coach, but he's taken over for Iona. But does anybody remember where he was at before Dickinson?
Where was he?
He was the head coach at St. Thomas.
Ah, Tommy.
He's a Tommy.
Tommy coach. Anyway.
Yep, Tommy coach. Remember, from 2013 to 2022.
Wow, from the top college basketball program in Minnesota.
To now, fair enough. But I think we kind of forgot about that a little bit. He was a Tommy for a while. Then Dickinson, obviously, from 22 to 23. And now
so you said 20. What were the years again?
2013 to 2022.
I was at one of his games. Because one of my college friends invited me over to watch a St. Thomas basketball game back in early 2015, that winter. And I remember
so that was the year they won the national championship too.
Yeah. And I was there because they're building a new arena now. At least the plans have been. Yeah, I was at that game and I didn't know anyone there. Just like, oh, this is pretty cool. It's my only time I've been on the St. Thomas campus. And wow, I didn't realize that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I know he's at Iona. He's not yet to the level of Duke.
No.
But still, pretty
good rise.
And I mean, Iona's a semi-regular tournament team anyway. That's pretty awesome.
It is pretty awesome. So my other one, it's not really a stock riser. I guess it's more of a shout out. We mentioned it in the first hour, but Matt Moore from UW Eau Claire pitching the first ever program history no-hitter.
Yeah. Agreed.
So there you go. Those are mine.
Okay. I mean,
stock fallers now.
I do. This was a tough one. There weren't really any good stock fallers this week, outside of like maybe obvious national ones, and I try to avoid the Captain Obvious ones. But I due to a lack of anything else, I'm gonna have to go with Matt Painter.
I was gonna. So my stock faller was Purdue. So we have the same one.
Yeah, and it's very it's pretty obvious what the risers and the fallers are this week.
Yeah,
like he's not gonna get fired, but man, well, at least not this offseason, but if this happens again, they lose to a 14 seed next year in the first round, could he actually get fired?
Well, I want to bring up his record here I want to see if I can find it for here we go. So The furthest he's ever advanced has been the Elite Eight back in 2018 and 2019. That's the furthest he's ever advanced, it looks like, in the NCAA tournament. He's got a few Sweet 16s on here, but never past the Elite Eight.
Wow.
Does it almost give a little bit of a – I hate to make this comparison. It's not really a good comparison because one guy kind of changed the program. Because Matt Painter, he took over after Gene Kennedy, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, that's
the legend.
that's an icon right there. But, I mean, the longest time, like Bo Ryan, it was like, oh, can you ever get past the Elite Eight? You know, that narrative. Then they got in the Final Four a couple times in a row and national championship. But it's different because Bo Ryan changed the program too, whereas Matt Painter is trying to, replace a legend, Gene Kennedy.
Yeah.
Over there. But, yeah, there's a lot of regular season success, but not a whole lot tournament going on over there for Purdue.
And this gets perilously into careful what you wish for territory. I don't think Purdue is quite to the point where, as I like to say, inertia will keep them up near the top.
There's got a 676 winning percentage at Purdue.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because otherwise, yeah, I don't know that like Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, the Kentucky, the Blue Bloods, they're always going to be around. Purdue, if they get the wrong coach, they could go into the wilderness for a little bit, I think. So
well, look at Ohio State. They're still trying to replace Thad Matta.
Yeah, so they're. I mean, I'd say Purdue's a little further along than Ohio State because of Gene Keady, but they're not Michigan State level where when Izzo leaves because of the pedigree of that program going back pre-Izzo, obviously. They do have to be a bit careful, but at some point you got to move forward in the tournament. If you're that good, you got to win more than like a game or two in the modern era, I should say, in the last few years.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know, man. Kind of interesting to follow that, right?
It's random. I don't want to say it's random because part of it is based on who he plays. For going like really big guys, and that doesn't necessarily match modern basketball. You set yourself up for other good teams from smaller conferences to be like, oh, well, we can exploit that easily, and then they do. So you might. There's just been so much expectations and hype with Purdue the last few years, and they haven't done anything with it. I mean, I think a lot of people thought this year is like, okay, yeah, Final Four team this year, and then they just towards the end it was like limping in a little bit. Yeah. So obviously, if we're doing the Final Four back in January, maybe it's a different story. But there's a reason why we play a full season's worth here. I mean, then Michigan State would never do anything if we had them in January. But certain teams know how to succeed late. One team I just mentioned. And then others they struggle, and that's Purdue right now, and that's Painter right now. They know it too. I can't imagine Matt Painter's going to be like, dang it, we're going to go for a 7-5 guy next time. No, I mean, double down. He's not going to do that. They'll find ways to adjust. And now that it's becoming a thing, I actually think they'll work it out somehow. Now, does that mean they go to the Final Four? Look, there are a ton of really good teams. Look through who's in the Sweet 16 right now. All sorts of teams that are regulars in college basketball, top 25 polls, well-known schools. I'm like, how many of these have actually made a Final Four? It's a very tough thing to do, especially when usually 1 or 2 slots a year go to a team. You're like, how did they get here? So in a way, it's not really shameful to be a really good program and not get to the Final Four because of the difficulty. But you also don't want to be a high seed losing to double-digit seeds on a regular basis. That's the thing. If they can get past that, and if they're flaming, if they get to like Xavier territory, Xavier has a chance to not be Xavier anymore and actually get to a Final Four. But Xavier's like the ultimate example of a team that they've had a few off years of late. But can you describe a more typical Elite Eight Sweet 16 peaking team than Xavier?
No, I think that's a really good example. I was just kind of looking up. So Matt Painter is a 4-time Big Ten Coach of the Year. Like these Coach of the Year awards, to me, I feel like you have to factor in postseason play, just in any sport. I feel like you have to.
I think you probably should.
Because Matt Painter's got 4, Big Ten Coach of the Year awards, and I know that's this conference. He's got more than Tom Izzo.
See, but that's the thing. It's based on the conference.
Right. But that's the thing. But what's more important, though, for a lot of these, it's postseason play.
It is, but then the counter is, well, that's not against the Big Ten.
So but which career would you rather have, Tom Izzo or Matt Painter?
You'd rather have the latter. Like the award should still exist, but it's we got to understand the role of that award. Also,
like, who would you trust more as your head coach, Tom Izzo or Matt Painter?
I mean, to be perfectly honest, I trust Izzo. And to be perfectly honest, I can't really name too many Big Ten coaches of the year over time. But I know the ones that got to the Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
I know the ones that have won national championships. So it kind of takes care of itself.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those, like, you could say Bill Belichick, that's why I look at, like, the NFL Coach of the Years of, like, Ron Rivera, I think, has 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some of the best coaches, and they're like, don't have one. And it's all based off 1 year. But I guarantee you a lot of those Coach of the Year coaches don't even have a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's where I feel like a lot of these awards, you do have to factor in postseason play sometimes.
Well, it's like the President's Cup in the NHL. Like, cool, you had the most points in the regular season, and that's a thing. And then those teams seemingly lose on a semi-frequent basis early in the playoffs. Bruins, watch out.
You actually want to know who's got the most Big Ten Coach of the Year award?
Who would that be?
That'd be Gene Keady. 7.
Huh. Well, and of all the Big Ten coaches, Katie is the one who I most.
Why do I keep mispronouncing Katie?
I know, because I think it also depends on how much you grew up. For him, he's more ingrained because he was there for so long, like rocking the comb over for decades. But of all the assorted coaches in Big Ten history, I mean, Izzo's probably.
Bob Knight's got 5.
Yeah, Knight, Izzo, and who else? Okay, Bo Ryan obviously.
He's got 4.
Stands out.
Greg Gard already has 2.
Wow. Would not have necessarily thought that.
Thad Matta has 3. It looks like.
Judd Heathcote's, now, I don't know how many, and just in terms of visibility, Judd Heathcote's one of the better known ones. After that, and I don't want to. Oh, who was Michigan's coach? Took over in '89 when they went to the.
Because he was at San Diego State too.
Yeah, and then he bolted.
Foster, Steve. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I can picture him.
Right. Yeah. Again, it's just one of those off the top of your head, you blank. You know exactly what I'm talking about, but I can't. But yeah, that's. Katie is up at about the top. You could, I mean, I don't know if you could put him above Izzo, but you could put him at the top of all-time Big Ten coaches. Maybe. I don't know that I buy that argument.
You'd put him above Bob Knight? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Bobby Knight?
Yeah.
Who's the best Big Ten basketball coach of all time?
That's the thing. Knight's. See, as time is going on, Knight's looking worse. Just because his styles and everything, you're like you really good coach, but what were you doing? And I don't mean comments in the meeting. No, not that. I'm beginning to wonder, would I've even wanted to play for him? As good as he knew the game, and he knew the game he knows the game very, very well. I think Knight's that's okay. That's why I said, Katie, you can make an argument. I think Knight's probably number 1. Izzo's probably number 2. Katie is probably number 3 all time in the Big Ten.
Okay.
Now, granted, I'm also not counting the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. I kind of don't want to be that guy that just doesn't acknowledge that, but it all counts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Badgers are NCAA national champions. It just happened a really long time ago.
I'm looking at Katie's record here, too. He's never gone to the Final Four.
Right. But he was really good for a long time, just never got over the hump.
So you would take Katie over Bo Ryan?
Ooh. I see that, boy, this gets tougher here because of what Ryan did with
right at the back end. Yeah.
And the university was putting a limit on the type of players recruitable.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might take Katie over Ryan, but we're talking a 50.1, 49.9.
too close to call almost scenario.
Yeah, like
a recount.
You could be good with either one.
You know who's never won an award that I've noticed? I just kind of find it funny.
Who?
Fran, Iowa.
Wow.
Mr. McCaffrey.
Yeah. Steve Fisher, by the way, is who I was
Steve.
thinking
I
of.
knew it was like Steve. I kept having like Steve Foster in my mind.
Yeah.
Thank you. So
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't only an Iowa basketball coach has won the Big Ten Coach of the Year twice.
I mean, Lute Olson, you could make a case, but he
yep.
established himself in Arizona,
Yep.
so that doesn't.
Yep. Lute Olson won it once, and then Tom Davis is the other one from Iowa to win it back in 86, 87.
Dr. Tom Davis.
That is the actually Rutgers is. I don't know if we want to count them because I'm just looking at like Big Ten schools, winners by school. Penn State only won it once. Can you name it? Got to go to the. Was it? Where's it at here? Penn State. Okay, one-time winner.
I don't remember. I can't. When was it?
Ed DeShalis, 08, 09.
Vaguely.
Yeah.
Oh, that doesn't really stand out that much.
No.
I mean, of course, I remember. I lived it at the time.
Mhm.
It just doesn't. It didn't stick.
Interesting. Yeah,
Clem Haskins doesn't count.
I'd put Bob Knight as number one Big Ten coach of all time. Then I'd go Izzo. And then I think you got to debate for three.
Yeah.
I think you got to debate for three.
I think that's the fair approach.
I feel like if Izzo would have more than one national championship, then I think you have maybe a real debate at number two.
That's the weird thing with Izzo. It feels like he's won multiple.
Right?
It's just,
he's been to 8 Final Fours.
He's 23 years on from his only national championship.
Right.
2000. The year Dick Bennett took the Badgers. Oh my gosh, it's been a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But they're always there.
The thing is, he's been to 8 Final Fours. Bobby Knight's been to 5, but he won 3 championships out of those 5
with an undefeated season. When this gets back into the whole, well, if they're all together today, how does it change? Coach today. Well, for one, he would definitely have to change. Bob Knight could not be Bob Knight today. He would get fired really fast.
Yep.
And this isn't even everyone's a snowflake. No. Like, look at what he's done. That's just no. You can be no. But would Izzo have thrived in the 70s and 80s? And I don't know about that, especially when you could have players stick around longer. I think Izzo's just an ace. Now, granted, a lot of Spartans stick around a while.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a lot of seniors, a lot of juniors. But if you go back to the 70s and 80s, when you had...
I remember he was a longtime assistant in the 80s, though, too, for Michigan State. So
under Judd Heathcote, and Heathcote's a very good coach.
Mm-hmm.
I think Knight would have still come out better, but that would have been a fascinating watch.
I feel like Izzo, I mean, he was an assistant for a long time, over 10 years?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he would have been an assistant for that long. Like, he would have... I feel like he would have gotten a job like in today's, because you got to always find the next young guy, right?
Yeah.
You got to find that next younger guy.
Unless you're the coach in waiting.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you got to find that next one. So,
and I know, by the way, in case anyone's wondering, yes, I know Izzo and Knight were coaching teams in the Big Ten at the same time. It was a short period, but they did overlap a little bit. Yes, I know. And yes, Michigan State was clearly doing better than Indiana. Indiana wasn't bad, but Michigan State was definitely doing better by that time. But that's also in their careers. Izzo was a new coach. Knight was a relatively older coach. I mean, he wasn't on the verge of retirement, but they'd definitely been around a while. That's an interesting one. So yeah, I think it's fair. Knight won. Izzo pretty close.
I feel like Izzo's almost like those quarterbacks now. Got to have 2. You know, like the quarterbacks. Oh, you need 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah, it's kind of moving in that direction.
So will. That's the thing.
I think Izzo's going to get around that because of his constant March success.
Mm-hmm.
Every time Michigan State moves on, it's like, well, Tom Izzo did it again. And seriously, how often do you hear people bring up Tom Izzo's 1 national championship? I never hear it. I mean, I'm sure people think it, but it's his calling card is finding ways to get his team to be successful when it counts.
Yeah.
Overall. And I think also there's a little bit of leeway given the nature of the tournament. It's so much more random. Football coaches are not going to get as much leeway. Baseball managers, NBA coaches are more structured. Seedings there's not as many teams involved.
Mm-hmm.
You can have your player, you can organize your team better. So that's, I mean, if Tom Izzo had last won an NBA championship in 2000, boy, we're like, why is he still sticking
Think
around?
about this. There's people now who were born in 2000 and are probably out of college since the last time Tom Izzo won a championship.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I was in college. I remember watching that national championship.
So that was 2000.
It
I was
April 2000.
April 2000. So I was in 8th grade. No.
Yes, it has been. What was the line? What was I remember watching that game, and there was another Nancism in that one. Who was Mo Pete?
Yeah,
M-O Pete. And we're like, yep, that's how you spell it, Jim.
Yep.
Correct.
Mateen Cleaves and
Mateen Cleaves. Yes.
yeah, that era.
Yeah.
So
that was a fun one to watch. Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. But
Yeah.
but it's been that long. Again, wow. I'm getting memories jogged here of being on college campus watching that, and that's when Izzo won it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's a long time ago.
Yep. So, all right, we got to do a little showdown here. We're going to do 74 versus 89. Again, we're not going to like deep dive into it like we did in the first round. So we'll just kind of, casually go in here. Plus, I want to bring up something that the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel has been doing, because everybody does their own challenges this time of year. I don't know if you've been seeing what the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel's been doing.
I have not. What do they do?
Best Wisconsin athlete. Best athlete in Wisconsin sports history. They got the championship round. If you haven't seen what it is, give me your guesses on who you think the matchup is between these two.
The top two.
The top two. It's the championship round. Give me, if you've seen it already, don't don't ruin it for everybody, okay? But if you haven't seen it, give me your guesses. Who
Are
you
these
think it will?
native or stars from the state teams?
Stars.
Okay.
Yeah.
Throws Rogers and Favre in the discussion, for example.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, it's not just people from Wisconsin.
Alan
It's
Amici versus, okay.
right. Exactly. So,
Okay.
but I want to see if there's any kind of, I don't think it's too surprising.
Athletes or icons?
Athletes. It's
Okay.
the best Wisconsin athlete. Best athlete in Wisconsin sports history.
It's not Euchre versus Seelig.
No.
Though Euchre would count as an athlete. That's true.
That's true. So
versus Bud Selig's daily hot dog.
So yeah, I'm not too surprised of how it went, but is it correct? Is probably what I'm getting at. So, but we'll take a quick break.
I'll think about that.
Yeah, you think about it. The rest of you, hit me up with a text what you think it is, this matchup. We'll be back after these quick words. Let's just jump right into it. So, kind of to rehash everything, 74 sports. Sorry, Luke. Dolphins beat the Vikings
Yeah, I know.
in 74 there.
I know.
Hey, Oklahoma won the AP Poll National Championship. Did not play any bowl the following January due to sanctions. So there, I got that. Nice. Let's go.
Kind of a down year for the Packers.
Yeah,
Bucks were in the post. When was the Kareem trade?
The Kareem trade, wasn't that later?
No, 75.
Yeah.
They were still because wait, did they go? Who was in basketball? That was the year.
Pistons over the Lakers.
Oh no, that's not 74. No, that no, the Celtics beat the Bucks in the NBA.
Oh, I'm looking at 89 right there. Yep, you're right.
Yeah,
my bad.
Right. So the Kareem trade was that following year, so
Mhm.
pretty decent for them. Brewers were still. Badgers, nothing really much to talk about for the football or men's basketball for the top two sports, you should say.
Baseball, we had the A's beating the Dodgers, but most importantly was the 10-cent beer night that Cleveland hosted.
Yeah.
Had to forfeit the game due to Texas due to drunken and unruly fans.
But it was also 715.
Oh yeah,
home run. I know I say 715 around here. It throws people off. Side note: did you see the? This is actually going to be the first of two uniform-related connections to this particular showdown. Did you see Atlanta's the Braves City Connects?
I did not.
They are a play on the Braves uniforms from when Hank Aaron hit the home run.
Nice.
With the blue raglan sleeves, the white blue thing that they had going in the 70s.
Mhm.
It's a take. You'll see more of it, obviously, because they're baseball will promote the living daylights out of it. But
Right.
that's going to be their City Connect. It's like the A or something like that, or the all of that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Anything else from 74 really noteworthy on this thing?
I think those were the big ones.
Okay.
Those are the big standouts of the year.
How about 89? We had the 49ers over the Bengals in that Super Bowl.
And that leads to the second one. And I learned this yesterday. Joe Montana wore the same jersey.
Yes, I mentioned that one time.
You did? Yeah.
Yeah. That would never, ever, ever happen. He would get fined for that.
Probably. But yeah, and you can notice that that's the thing. Once you look at the pictures, you're like, oh yeah, it's different because the sleeves were already shrinking by then, so the stripes were getting a little thinner. Yeah.
Yeah, his wife packed it in a bag with a little note, and yeah, it wasn't like last year's jersey. It was a few years in between.
Right. Well, and part of the trick too is because of all the patches that are put on for the Super Bowl, and by that I really mean the Super Bowl patch. That would make it pretty much impossible.
Yeah, because we were I think it was a couple weeks ago when it went off to auction.
Yeah,
that's when we were talking about it. So
yeah, like oh my gosh, but yeah, if folks look at pictures from those two Super Bowls, from the 85 Super Bowl and the 89 Super Bowl.
Can you imagine somebody trying to do that now? They would get fined.
They might
get fined for wearing the wrong socks.
I think it depends on regulation. Like if it's too long they might be able to get away with it. The trick is the patch, which is the giveaway. But then again, you could probably find a patch. You could probably, if you really, really wanted to do it, you could probably get a patch from someone else's. Well, like remember Favre kept wearing that different jersey with the three stripes. The three sets of stripes versus the two sets of stripes. Remember after the Packers cut that off beginning of the 97 season? And then every so often he'd break out like the full stripe version. So you could get away with it, but I do wonder, like, would that become like this kind of stupid internet controversy for a day?
It would.
Probably would.
Yep.
But it was still cool.
Yeah. Notre Dame beat West Virginia to win the national championship in college football. What else do we got? Baseball. Hey, Jim Abbott made his major league debut.
Pete Rose got banned that year.
Yep.
That was the Bart Giamatti year.
Oakland won the World Series again.
The San Francisco, the Earthquake series.
Yep. Michigan defeated Seton Hall in overtime. Pistons beat the Lakers, as I mentioned a little bit earlier.
Going back to the Steve Fisher reference from Michigan. Well, there you go.
Yep. Anything else of note?
Robin Yount, MVP.
Okay. Yep.
Pretty good year for him. So sports-wise,
I go, what was the most iconic moment, and that's Hank Aaron for me.
Yeah, I'll take 74 because that carries a lot more.
Yep. So I'll go 74.
As great as that Super Bowl was,
yeah.
But Hank Aaron, and there's enough else going on in 74 that I'll take that one.
I agree. I'm going 74 too.
All right.
So music.
Musically, 74 is still kind of, I mean, again, some really classic albums. Stevie Wonder, Joni Mitchell, Clapton, Neil Young, Steely Dan had some good ones. Whereas in 89, not as many. I mean, Full Moon Fever's out there. Paul's Boutique's out there. Pretty Hate Machine comes out that year. These are interesting times musically speaking, because 74, you're getting the beginning of disco. 89 was the year of Milli Vanilli and New Kids on the Block, which I know New Kids at least actually sang or chanted on their songs. Milli Vanilli wasn't even them. 74 is more classic stuff, so I think 74 should advance.
So 74 is advancing?
Yeah.
Good, because I was split on movies, so I don't have to make that decision anymore.
Remind us of the key ones.
So 74, you have, it's on the top, The Godfather Part 2, Blazing Saddles, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Young Frankenstein. I mean, this was a Gene Wilder year. Was 74 there. I mean, so the original Longest Yard with Burt Reynolds. So very kind of top heavy in that. The Great Gatsby.
Oh yeah, we're starting to get into those years where once you get down a little further, Shelter Your Eyes.
Yep. But then it's like, okay, you got some top heavy, but then you look at 89, and I got some nostalgia feel on this one. Roadhouse, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Dead Poet Society, Batman, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, Weekend at Bernie's, for crying out loud, Back to the Future Part 2, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Glory, When Harry Met Sally. I mean, so Pet Cemetery, Ghostbusters 2, Field of Dreams, for crying out loud, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Born on the 4th of July, Tango and Cat, Major League. So I'm glad I don't have to decide between this. Because 74 is top heavy, but you got a lot of like culture type movies in 89.
And that's the difference. 70s to 80s, you start to get into those that have lasted a lot longer, even if they're not necessarily as good as the ones at the top.
Lethal Weapon 2.
But 74 advances.
74. All right. Sorry, 89 movies. They were really good.
But Godfather Part 2 is really, 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 really good. Plus, try not to have...
I love Young Frankenstein, so...
It's a very good movie. I
actually have that one on DVD. So.
I ain't got nobody. If you don't know the reference, folks, watch it. It's hilarious.
So 94 won last week.
And 74 wins this week.
Yep. So,
okay.
Moving on.
Cool.
All right. Let's take our final break, and then I'll tell you what... Get last chance for any guesses. Who do you think is voted on by, well, I guess, Wisconsin fans, right? The Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel had a bracket out there, or has a bracket out there. Who is the best athlete in Wisconsin sports history? They've got their championship matchup up and ready to vote. Who do you think? If you didn't look at it, give me your best guesses. Who do you think the championship matchup is? And tell me if you think it's the right one after we tell you who it is. Do you have a guess?
I kind of do, though. I will ask, is this one of these where you're like, really, folks, you had to put that person in there? Or is this like legit?
I don't think too many people argue, but it might surprise some people.
Because I was almost going to say, like, is it Aaron Rodgers versus Brad Davison?
It's not. No, Brad Davison. So,
Okay.
I don't think too many people will have a problem, but we'll just see if it's the right one. I'll just leave it that way. Okay. We'll see. And I got results from other matchups too. So
I'll say my vote is Star Rodgers, and let's see what it is.
All right. Let's take a quick break, and we'll tell you what the championship round is after these quick words. All right. So you went with Rogers and Starr, was it?
Yeah, and I mean, I could like I think it should be Giannis for sure versus. Oh, and this gets really tough because of the. I mean, probably should be. We're talking athletes,
Mhm.
so not coaches, because then I'm definitely putting Lombardi in there.
Mhm.
I mean, actually, probably we're talking the most talented. It probably should be Rogers versus Giannis.
Okay.
So what was it?
There is no Packer in it. Does that surprise you that no Packer made it?
I wonder if they canceled each other out.
Well,
And I think I'm really referring to the big three.
well, so they set it up. They have a Packers region. They had a college region. They combined Brewers and Bucks, if that tells you anything. A Brewers and Bucks region, and then a wild card region, which you had, some like let me just. I'm trying not to give away. Eric Hayden was in the wild card
Okay,
region,
got
sort of
it.
thing. So,
Yes.
but your championship matchup is Giannis and Hank Aaron.
Wow. Okay. You know what?
Right? See, I can get it. I'm a little surprised the votes didn't go Packers way, but
Here- okay,
I
here-
think it's the whole drama thing going on.
That's definitely hurting because you can't come up with a very obvious who's the best of the three of the three quarterbacks. The drama's definitely hurting Rodgers right now, and I think some of that's leaking to Favre. Well, it doesn't help with Favre's headlines of late have been pretty bad. And Starr, I think, is getting discounted because of the era. And
Well, can I tell you how the votes went for the Packers?
yes.
So the matchups were weird. How this one was Rodgers versus Favre in the first one.
Wow.
Rodgers beat Favre.
Okay.
Then it was Reggie White versus Ray Nitschke. Reggie White won that one.
Okay.
Bart Starr versus Forrest Gregg. Bart Starr won that one. Don Hudson versus Jim Taylor. Don Hudson won that one.
Good. No offense to Taylor, but Hudson needs to move on.
Then it was Rodgers versus Reggie White. Reggie White won that one.
Oh, that tells you a lot right there.
Yep. And then Bart Starr versus Don Hudson. Bart Starr won that one.
Okay.
White versus Starr. Starr won.
Okay.
So Starr won the Packers region. In the Brewers/Bucks region, I think you all know who won that one. It was Giannis.
Yes.
The first round matchup though was Kareem versus Giannis.
Oh my gosh.
Then it was Robin Yount versus Paul Molitor.
Oh, jeez.
Robin won that one. Brawny versus Fielder. Braun won that. Sidney Moncrief versus Big O. The Big O won. Yount beat Braun. Giannis beat the Big O. There we go. Giannis beat Robin
Okay.
Yount.
That makes sense.
College region, Butch Lee versus Bo Ellis. Frank the Tank versus Dwayne Wade.
All right, we're getting a little thin here.
Yeah. Butch Lee won that. Dwayne Wade beat Frank the Tank.
Shocker.
Joe Thomas versus JJ Watt. JJ Watt beat Joe Thomas. Ron Dane versus Alan Amici. Ron Dane won it. Dwayne Wade beat Butch Lee. JJ Watt beat Ron Dane. Which kind of surprised me because we were just talking about like a Wisconsin Mount Rushmore
Mm-hmm.
after Mark Johnson, won his 7th national championship as a
Yeah.
coach.
Uh-huh.
Everybody had Ron Dane on there. Nobody had JJ Watt.
Huh.
But JJ Watt won the college one
For
there.
some reason, JJ Watt's time with the Badgers has kind of been forgotten. Even I'm like, that's right. He played for the Badgers.
Mm-hmm. Then the wild card region, Hank Aaron versus Warren Spahn. Hank won it. Bonnie Blair versus Eric Hayden. Eric won. Enrique Agumbawale
Mm-hmm.
versus Sonia Henning. Agumbawale won
Makes
it.
sense, yeah.
Susie Favor Hamilton versus Molly, is it Seidel?
Can't quite remember. But...
Susie Favor won that.
Okay.
Hank Aaron beat Eric Hayden. Susie beats Agumbawale, and then Hank Aaron won. So, the one thing I don't see on here is what was the Final Four matchup? So, like, who was Hank Aaron up against?
Yeah.
That I'm not seeing on here. So I'd be curious to see, like, okay, so it was like Hank Aaron, Bart Starr, JJ Watt, and Giannis is your Final Four, and Giannis and Hank Aaron went and moved on.
Like, I think that makes sense. Hank Aaron's time in Wisconsin, I mean, in Eau Claire is plenty acknowledged, obviously, and rightfully so. I think his time in Wisconsin is it's very underrated.
Mhm.
Like, he was a very good player for a World Series champion in Wisconsin when baseball was the dominant sport in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow a lot of that maybe it's just me, but for some reason in terms of Wisconsin, and maybe it's because the Braves have become so associated with Atlanta.
Well, and I think that's the thing, because Hank Aaron's not, he's in the wild card bracket. You know, when you
Right.
think of baseball, it's the Brewers. Well, the Brewers had a bracket sort of thing. So,
but the Braves were really good. Now, also, when you get down to Milwaukee, Butch Lee's going to stand out a lot more because he played for Marquette in Milwaukee.
Right.
You ask a lot of sports fans in Eau Claire, Butch Lee, right? Bruce Lee, who, what?
Yeah.
They're not going to know, unfortunately, but it's a national champion from Wisconsin. It just happens to be Marquette from the 70s. So there's a little bit of regionalism going on with that. If this is a somehow statewide poll, I think you'd want to match up stuff differently. But there's probably some lingering Braves fandom there. I mean, much older fans, obviously, but there's some that are going to remember that better. But honestly, I think as a state, this is not a knock on us, but I think we collect, and I'm going to count myself in this too. I think we need to do a better job of acknowledging Hank Aaron as a Wisconsin sports icon. Eau Claire's we've done our job. That's good. Expanded to the state for what he did there.
Overall with this, I have no problem with this championship, Brown. I have no problem at all. I'm good. Are you good with Giannis?
Yeah,
I am good.
It's one of those where I took like 1 second and went, actually, that makes more sense than a lot of the others. Plus, you can argue less over it.
And the key phrase in this thing is athlete, right? Best athlete. Athlete. I have a particular definition of athlete. I'm sure somebody have the same. Like, athlete. Giannis is an athlete, right? Like, when you think of an athlete, you like Giannis. That's an athlete.
He's like the best athlete in this we've ever had.
That Packers region is voted based purely off of who people like the most, not athletes.
Because let's be real, Aaron Rodgers is the best one talent-wise. I think you could say just sheer talent.
Sheer talent. I'm sorry, but I'm going to say it. Yes, it's Rodgers and Don Hudson.
Yeah.
If you're talking athletic talent, it is Rodgers and Don Hudson.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a knock on Bart Starr, but Bart Starr was not the most athletic Packer of all time. If you want to say he's the best Packer of all time, that's different. And that's where I think they went with the voting there.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Depends on what you're going for, but a literal athletic definition based on what the body can do, what you're capable of accomplishing in a physical manner on a field of play, that is Rodgers and Hudson. Gosh, imagine if Don Hudson grew up and would have been presumably taller, more trained. Gosh, imagine him today.
I know. Yeah. No, but that's the Packer one. I'm like, oh, that makes total sense with how everything's going on right now.
Yeah, because
how that voting went.
Well, and anyone was listening Monday morning, and I heard it on the pod, your Peter King interview. Like as you said, like around here, the census. It's a weird thing that people are like, we're sick of Rodgers, but at the same time, it's like, well, kind of wish him well too, but just want it over with, and that probably bled into the voting too. Like they're not anti, but they're also, can we just be done? And that might have affected it right now. Let's do this again in 5 years. I'm saying that to the Journal Sentinel.
Yeah.
Presuming the Journal Sentinel still exists in 5 years. You've seen their subscription numbers. Oh, ugly. But they should do this 5 years from now, get past a lot of this.
Yeah.
And see what it is.
Yeah. Because if you'd have told me how that matchup, and I know it's based off of, they put Favre and Rodgers right away against each other, but I probably would not have picked a Reggie White versus Bart Starr final in the Packers region. But it makes sense. And it's not based off of the best athlete, in my opinion. It's based off of fan favorites.
Well, and also,
region.
If you're going to match them up, like we're going to put these two from the same era together to start. Usually I like to balance stuff out as much as possible, but they had an approach for that. And well, you're going to end up with a Star-White matchup if that's how you do that.
I was kind of surprised that, okay, so here's my other question. So they put Forrest Gregg in here, right? I might have subbed him out. And if we're talking straight up athlete, Paul Hornung.
Then again, Lombardi said Gregg was
Best play Packer, but we're talking athlete.
Yeah, that's true, and he could do everything. Horning, of course.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jerry Kramer also kicked extra points too, so factor that in there. So
that's why we debate.
Yeah.
Yay.
Eric Hayden was on their surveyor, but he only advanced once. Yeah, he beat Bonnie Blair in the first round. So, all right. But that's barroom talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Have a good rest of your Wednesday, everybody. DP and the Danettes, they're up next. We will chat with you again tomorrow, just past 6 a.m.